Sure.
Okay. I'd like to call this October 3, 2023 meeting of the Henderson City County Planning Commission to order. Welcome everybody, and thank you all for being here. We're ready to begin. Everybody hear me okay? No. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that rezoning 1155 and a related master plan having to do with Grafton Park has been removed from the agenda this evening. So if anybody's here to address that project, we will not consider it this evening. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you. David Dixon.
Here.
Kevin Richard.
Here.
Bobby Jarrett.
Here.
Mac Arnold.
Here.
XR Royster.
Here.
Dickie Johnson.
Here.
Gary Gibson.
Here.
Gray Hodge.
Here.
Stacy Denton.
Here.
Kevin Herron. Frank Boyette.
Here.
Heather Tays.
Here.
Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Very good, excellent. Before we enter public hearing, I would ask the indulgence of the commission to reorder the agenda and bring forward to the first spot, the last spot now on our agenda, the Bill Williams minor subdivision lot number 3. I'll entertain a motion to make that change in the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Very good. Ms. Marsh, you going to help us with this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you all, I believe, saw at the last meeting, this is another one of those where we discussed the 3-to-1 lot width. And so because of the flag lot look of it, we do require those to come to Planning Commission. I'm sorry if I zoom out too far, it's a little small, but you guys can see what we're discussing here. And it does have adequate road frontage, meets all the subdivision requirements other than the potential of that 3-to-1. So if you guys are good with it, we would just need your approval to move forward on it.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant? Is the applicant represented?
I'm right here.
Okay. Do we have any questions for this applicant?
No.
Okay. Anybody like to speak to this matter? I'll entertain a motion in regard to this minor subdivision lot number 3 for Bill Williams.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve it. So do I. Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
XR Royster.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Gray Hodge.
Yes.
Stacy Denton.
Yes.
Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Heather Tays.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion passes. Now I need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor of being in public hearing, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? We are in public hearing. First item on the agenda in public hearing is the approval of minutes for September 5, 2023 meeting.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to approve, any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Before we go any further, I'd like to propose to the commission that we institute our speaking guidelines that we have used in recent times to help us stay on schedule and make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. So I will read this and then ask for a motion to approve. If the Henderson City County Planning Commission regularly scheduled meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 3, 2023, has not been sooner concluded and adjourned, it will stop at 9 p.m. And by motion and vote of the Planning Commission be continued and reconvened virtually the following night, Wednesday, October 4, 2023 at 6 p.m. and stop at 9 p.m. And by motion and vote of the Planning Commission be continued and reconvened at 6 p.m. and stop at 9 p.m. from night to night thereafter until finished. The Planning Commission very much wants to hear all evidence, comments, petitions, suggestions, and questions collectively referred to as comments. All comments will be at the end after all amended sections have been presented by staff, unless the chairman elects otherwise, or unless changed by the Board of Planning Commission. There will be no time limit on attorneys, and attorneys will present and comment first. We will begin with attorneys, then non-attorneys. Attorneys may ask questions directly. Questions from non-attorneys must be presented to the chairman, either verbally or in writing, along with who the question is to be directed to, and the chairman will ask the question. That is, non-attorneys may not ask questions directly. Each non-attorney will initially be given 3 minutes. After every non-attorney has had 3 minutes, if there are non-attorneys who would like additional time, an additional 3 minutes will be given. And this procedure will be repeated until everyone has had an opportunity to present all they desire to present. Speakers are asked not to repeat something another speaker has said. They may come forward and say they agree with one or more of the other speakers and present anything new they may have. Planning commissioners may comment and ask questions at any time. I will entertain a motion to put those speaking rules into place this evening.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Very good. So we'll proceed under those guidelines. First item in public hearing is rezoning 1153. Ms. Martin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rezoning 1153, submitted by James R. and Sheila A. Bevan for the property located in Henderson County at 7787 Rucker Road number 1, being parcel ID number 85-59, containing approximately 0.46 acres. The applicant's request a zoning change map amendment from agricultural to planned unit development for consolidation to an existing lot that is zoned planned unit development. So if you all will look at the screen up here, you will see the lot that is outlined in this teal color is the lot that we are referring to, but you'll also want to look at the exhibit here. So the portion that we are looking to rezone is only this red portion here, or the 0.46 acres. They are looking to do that rezoning so that this part of this parcel, can be consolidated into this parcel here. And so that is their request. I do have findings of fact to read into the record if you all do not have any further questions.
Any questions for staff? May we go ahead and hear the findings of fact, the proposed findings of fact?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Rezoning number 1153, again submitted by James R. and Sheila A. Bevan for the property located in Henderson County at 7787 Rucker Road number 1, being parcel ID number 85-59 and containing approximately 0.46 acres. The applicants are requesting a zoning change map amendment from agricultural to planned unit development for consolidation to an existing lot zone planned unit development. A proposed motion could be that I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the Henderson County Fiscal Board, the county, approve rezoning application 1153, changing the zoning classification from agricultural to planned unit development for consolidation to an existing lot zone planned unit development. I leave the motion open for other members of the Planning Commission to add findings of fact in support of this motion because the proposed rezoning is in agreement with the future land use map of the comprehensive plan as the area is shown developing as in a residential nature. Also, both parcels' current and future use is one-family residence. The surrounding parcels are one-family residential. This rezoning will not negatively affect other parcels in the area. This proposed development is served by adequate infrastructure utilities. Both parcels have mature trees that provide screening to adjacent parcels.
Okay, thank you very much. I will point out that these rezonings, the Planning Commission's duty here is to, our task is to conduct a public hearing and make a recommendation. In this case, it would be to fiscal court. Fiscal court would either agree with us or not. They would be the deciding body. Any questions from the commission? Any further questions for staff? Do we have anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Would anybody like to question this or perhaps speak in opposition to this rezoning? No questions, no comments. I'll entertain a motion in regard to rezoning 1153.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed motion and finding the facts that was read into the record as my final motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Heather Chase.
Yes.
Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Stacy Denton.
Yes.
Greg Hodge.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson.
Yes.
XR Royster.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett.
Yes.
Kevin Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is rezoning 1154 with a graphic development plan. Mr. Bishop, I think you're going to help us with that?
Yes, sir. This is submitted by HCM LLC, David and Peggy Watkins, for the property located in the city of Henderson on Wesley Drive in parcel ID number 65-22.2, containing approximately 13.106 acres. The applicants are requesting a zoning change map amendment from agricultural to medium-density residential with a graphic development plan to develop a single-family residential subdivision. The area in question is highlighted in the blue cyan color. It is at the end of the current stub street of Wesley Drive, which is off Pebble Creek Drive behind Aqua City and near Pebble Creek Apartments. So the applicants have submitted the development plan, as I stated before. They are seeking approval for 42 lots. They would extend a stub street, which would approximately dead into the adjacent property owner's property line in case there is future development in that direction. You would have two cul-de-sac streets that extend to the bulbs here, and then access would be at the dead end portion of Wesley Drive as it currently exists. One thing of note is that the future land use map does show this low density residential, and staff has a motion for approval if you choose fit to use it. And I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for staff? The proposed new zone is R2.
Yes, sir.
Does R2 allow development other than single-family residential?
It does, sir. It would allow single-family residential and two-family residential structures.
So, duplexes.
Yes, sir.
The rezoning as described here includes a graphic development plan to develop single-family residential.
That is correct.
The applicant's making a commitment to that would be the case?
That is the case. And I believe Mr. Davis is here if you have more detailed questions, excuse me, regarding the zoning.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Would anyone here like to speak in favor of this project?
Yes, we read, actually,
Not in favor.
not favor, I'm sorry.
Okay, is the applicant here? Or the representative, would you like to speak to the commission, sir?
We can if you have questions.
Okay, very good, we might need you. Are there those who have questions about this project or perhaps would like to speak in opposition?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, you may, sir, like to come to the, you got the podium so we can record.
I guess my question would be first, would it be prudent for them to,
Sir? Yes, I need to swear you in and the whole bit. Need your name,
Wendell Gerber,
your address,
2493 Balmoral Drive?
you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Would it make sense for them to tell us what their intent is, what they're planning to do, so we can respond to that? We have a very thorough document that we've prepared that we'd like for each of you to have that to review, to understand some of our concerns. Would it make sense for them to talk about what they want to do first before I provide opposition to what we really don't even know?
Okay.
All we've been told is it was initially to be a 55 and older community of single-family homes, and now you're talking about R2 duplexes.
I have given the applicant the opportunity to speak first. Would you like to do that, sir, and describe this project?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. They've agreed to do so. Thank you. So I'll need your name, sir.
Mark Stone, 106 Chandler Drive.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. And you, sir?
Chris Stone, 8145 Watson Lane.
And you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Could you kind of describe what we have in mind here?
We've designed the subdivision as single-family. We're restricting it to only single-family, but no duplexes, multifamily, nothing else. Only single-family homes. So that's the gist of,
Okay. There was some mention of a 55 and older. Is that what the last gentleman said? Is there any kind of?
No, there's
anything like that in
no-
mind?
not for
For what
us.
we're doing, no.
Okay. Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask a question?
Well, by all means, please.
Would you be willing to enter into a written development plan to restrict this to only single family? I think you've done it with your drawing, but just to make it clear for the record when it goes to
Yes,
the city or county.
yes, absolutely. We only want single-family homes. We don't want the others.
Okay. Commission have any other questions for these gentlemen? Yes, by all means.
Square footage, what would be the approximate square footage?
Well, we're looking at starting around 1,400 square feet and then going up from there, probably 1,800, 1,900 or above, depending on what a customer would want.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We may need you again. Anyone else want to speak in favor of this project?
I have some questions that I'd like to ask of the developers, if I could.
You can come to the podium, ask them to me, and then I'll ask them.
And I am an attorney,
Good.
and I'm slow, I'm so very sorry.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Name, ma'am?
It's Anita Mendra-Ivy,
Your address?
1986 Wesley Drive in Henderson.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Very good. How can we help you?
All right, sir, I had some questions that I'd like to ask the developers. The square footage, I believe they answered, they said would start at 1,400 square feet. I'd like to know how far the spaces would be between the homes. I'd like to know if these homes are going to be brick or siding. I'd like to know if they're going to be foundation or on slabs. I'd like to know the value of the homes. And I'd like to know about attached garages and on-street parking.
Okay, questions about the space between the homes,
Yes, sir.
brick or siding,
Yes, sir. Foundation or slab?
foundation or slab, and what they're going to cost.
Yes, sir.
And any questions about garages and parking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any others?
No, sir, not right now.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and, if the gentleman would join us again at the podium, we'll try to deal with these. So the first question has to do with what kind of space will be between the homes.
Well, on R2, there's a 8-foot side yard setback, so there's going to be 8 feet to the property line, and another 8 feet, so you're going to have 16 feet at least.
Okay, this is according to our subdivision regulations, correct?
City zoning ordinance.
City zoning law, this is by law. Are they going to be brick or siding?
There'll be a mixture. What we'd like to do is a mixture of different exteriors. There's some composite siding. It isn't true vinyl. It's composite siding. Some stone, brick, and then also some other accents. So
Okay. On foundation or slabs?
That would be case by case, I would think, for the houses, we don't know.
that isn't determined. We do build slabs and we do build all spaces, so we could go either way.
Okay. The selling price?
We think it's kind of hard to determine at this point in time, but I would think it's going to be in the low to mid 200,000s, starting there and going up.
Good. And there's a question about attached garages and on-street parking. what kind of garage parking plans?
There will be two-car attached garage unless a customer wanted a bay or something like that. So there would be two spots there, two in the driveway at least, and then we're going to restrict to no parking on the street. No off-street parking,
Okay.
on-street parking.
Should that restriction also be noted in some type of addition? Counselor?
Yes, that could be included in your development plan, which is a restriction.
Okay.
So you're agreeing
We're good, yeah, we're good with that.
to put that
Yes.
no on-street parking in the development.
Yes, sir.
So far, the restrictions would include single-family homes.
Correct.
And no on-street parking. Very good, thank you. Thank you, guys. So we'll probably need you again. More questions?
Can I address?
Yes, sir. Okay, I think we've sworn you in, sir.
Okay, yes. Again, my name is Wendell Gerber, I live at 2493 Balmoral Drive. We do have some questions regarding this. We've developed a pretty extensive, that we'd like to pass out. Has quite a few questions, more in depth than maybe what you all need to see. But primarily,
Are you asking to enter these into the record?
yes. Not only am I asking to be entered to the record, I would like to ask for a lot of questions. We'd like to have some of those.
If you have questions, you need to ask them verbally, and to the chairman, and let the
Okay.
chairman ask them.
Okay, no problem.
But you're welcome to enter anything you choose into the record.
Okay,
But if you want someone to answer a question, you need to ask.
got all of that. Okay,
We're here.
Okay.
So
They're relevant.
9 o'clock, we'll come back tomorrow.
Questions are relevant. I think you basically have addressed a little bit of the summary request we first have as summary. Question number one, with respect to R1, R2. We were initially thinking this was all going to be a single-family development, and I think you may have addressed the fact that it would be R1.
Mr. Chairman, it would be zoned to R2 with some single-family homes.
Okay, just without a restriction, we just need to know it's going to be single-family, not duplexes, triplexes, et cetera.
I just want to make sure the difference in
Okay.
zoning.
Okay. I just need to know what it looks like. One of the biggest problems out there, our first is access. Right now, you're talking about extending Wesley Drive. I don't know if anybody's new to the site. Wesley Drive's 30 feet wide. It was initially planned to be a through street at one time. The traffic from this proposed development was probably going to make an additional 400 traffic passes past the existing 6 homes. Streets very narrow. We think that that's not a good plan for the city, not a good plan for the subdivision. We have, in our proposal, provided an alternate solution that we think serves this property, the existing homeowners, the new subdivision, and also the city. And that would be coming off what I would say would be the north part, actually be the northwest part where the top of Wesley dies into it, would be to turn and go to Pebble Creek, put a new street in there. This is all available here for you to take a look at.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
may I address something?
please.
Planning Commission cannot consider, they can consider it an alternative, but they can't approve an
I understand.
alternative. You could ask the applicant if they would change and do something different, or the Planning Commission could vote it down, but the Planning Commission doesn't have the power to tell the developer to do something different.
Correct. Basically, what we were asking for as a group would be a traffic study in the area.
We're
The city.
willing to pay for it.
Why would the developer pay for it? He's putting the,
Then are you asking the developer to pay for it?
I'm asking either the city or the developer to pay for a traffic study, yes.
Then the chairman can ask the developer. I'm gonna back out, but you're welcome to say anything you want to.
Okay.
But if you want a question asked to the developers, be plain to the chairman that you want the developers to answer whatever your question is.
Okay, that's fine.
And we're here to help you and get to say whatever you choose to say. But you can say a lot and nothing happens if you don't ask the question.
Okay. That being said, my questions need to be directed to the developer. We feel that street access into the property using Wesley is inadequate. Are there other options? We have provided an option.
What page is your option?
I believe number 8.
Okay. This is, looks to me, I guess this would be, that would be Community Baptist Church property it's running along.
That could be adjacent to, just right.
That's the parking lot of the church right there, right?
That's the parking lot for the church right now. There would not be any parking lot of the church. It would be
Right now.
Yeah.
It's right beside.
additional.
It's between the church and opposite.
Correct.
I don't, developers, you haven't had no way to see this, this document that's been provided? Yes, it's okay to provide them a copy?
Sure.
Good. We have an extra one?
We have one.
Okay, so we've talked about so far a traffic study, an optional entrance. Anything else, sir?
Yes. This would also be a question to the developer and or their planning engineer. We feel like a soil structural study should be completed by the subdivision engineer. The reason being, there have been several sinkholes appear on that property. If these homes are built such a not on good soil structure, and Greg can attest to this, and or the streets that ultimately that the city will end up taking over if the city, streets are usually deeded back to the city for maintenance. At one time, we were told that there was shallow coal mines underground with a chance for some subsidence. I particularly have a little bit of a problem with my house with some settling, et cetera. I don't know if it's from mine subsidence or just general construction. It appears that is an issue.
Anything else?
Yes. Drainage issues. Currently, we have a, within this document, we'll provide you probably the last 5 or 6 pages, basically from 9 of 14 to 14 of 14. It's farmland, it's always been farmland. It has several swales in it that directs the runoff water basically through Balmoral subdivision. Question to the developer is their water self-contained? Is all their stormwater going to be self-contained, or is it going to be directed through Balmoral Drive or Balmoral and or Glen Shield? At the corner of Glen Shield and Burke Hall, there are 2 lots there that have drainage issues as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I add something here?
Yes, please.
Just so everyone knows, to answer that question, sort of, kind of, if this were approved for the rezoning, the project would still come back to the Plan Commission for a master plan approval. Preliminary plats, the related construction drawings, which would show drainage and how those basins are calculated and sized. HWU's engineer would approve that from the developer's engineer. So there's a review process there for that.
Yeah, you did explain it to me.
Okay.
I don't understand how it's supposed to work.
Did I miss anything?
No. I understand how the process is supposed to work as far as the civil engineers doing their part. Our concern is, we already have issues of what the drainage, to try to take care of the issue, and we have basically a situation where part of Balmoral Drive has washed out at least 2 to 3 times. It had to be reconstructed and still is a problem.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for the HWU representative to address the storage of stormwater at this time?
Let me see if you have other questions, sir, and we'll talk to you.
Well, that's a major concern of ours, is the stormwater. That's fine. I guess the other thing is to, you did answer with respect to what type of construction. We have a brief idea of what he wants. We have no drawings, have no understanding. We do know what our houses look like here. We do know what our property values are. All we're asking for is something similar size, lot size, et cetera, so that our values do not depreciate. So, I think we talked briefly about Wesley Drive. We're very detailed on our questions with respect to that. Basically what we're saying, you have a document in front of you, that can be presented to the builder and developer and the owner to answer it. That would help us understand this process better. I don't know that everybody in our neighborhood, we knew that something was going to happen. We've always been told that something was going to be built there. I don't think anyone has a problem with something being built there. We just want something of quality and good construction practices and drainage practices that will not degrade our property.
Thank you. Anything else at the moment? Questions for this gentleman from the commission? Okay, thank you, sir. Could the developer, the applicants, please come back up? Could you gentlemen address the need for, or the suggestion that a traffic study be conducted?
I don't think in a subdivision this size, I'm not sure it's warranted. I think probably Doug Broom could answer that question better than we could.
Okay, we'll ask Mr. to do that. The optional entrance, you had seen this for the first time this evening, I assume, right?
You what?
The suggestion for another entrance, I assume that's new to y'all.
Well, that is off-site, so that's not even part of the property, so we could only go up to what's there
Okay.
with the potential for that, but
Yes.
Okay, what, is there some type of soil structure study been done on this?
No.
Okay. Normally something that one would do?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, if you think about it, we're taking the risk to build the house there, so it's on us at that point.
Okay, what about the drainage question?
Well-
It's going to increase runoff to adjacent properties?
What actually will happen after discussing with HWU is that the retentions, there's 2 proposed retention areas, and those will actually slow down the water that comes off there, and it would actually help, is what we were told.
Commissioner, if you'll look here, there's 2 different ones. So here's one right here, and then there's also one on this side here. So I think their concern is coming this direction, so we've got this here.
Okay? Those are the 4 questions that I made note of. I'm sure I've missed something. I'm sure somebody will point that out. Let me see if I can get some more information. Thank you, guys. Could the city engineer help us out here? Thank you so much. I need your name.
Doug Boone, 222 First Street.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. The traffic study question.
Okay. Back when we got the revised development plan, I forwarded to the NPO, and I do have documentation from them on whether or not a traffic study is required. You want me to read it in, or?
One thing, would you explain what the NPO is, please?
The NPO is the Evansville Metropolitan Planning Office organization. They provide transportation studies for us as the city of Henderson.
Doug, if you would, let the commission know what they said.
Okay. In a conversation or email I sent to Amir Vashushi, I told him about this development, where it was going, and I attached a copy of the preliminary plat, or development plan, excuse me. And he said, "Hi Doug, after reviewing the plans for the subdivision and speaking with Laura Land, who was a former planner there, has come back out of retirement, said, based on the NPO's access management manual, the development would not meet the 750 trips per day to trigger a traffic impact study, TIS. Further development in the area might require one in the future." And they gave a caption from the NPO management manual. "A traffic impact study will be required when it's determined that a development will generate 100 trips or more during the peak hour of adjacent street traffic or generator traffic, or 750 trips per day." They also commented, they said the NPO sees no issue with the cul-de-sac plans. Regarding access, based on there only being 45 lots, a single access would be sufficient. Further future development would require TIS, and developments with more than 50 lots would require an additional access. Again, they enclosed a caption from their manual saying, "To prevent the situation, a subdivision or a combination of subdivisions and/or a multifamily residential development with a single access point shall serve a maximum number of 50 lots, units." That's the end of the question. That's the end of the email.
Would you introduce that into the
Yep.
record? Thanks.
Any questions from the commission? Okay. What about the drainage question? Would it be appropriate to address that?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Matt Coward is the appropriate engineer for that.
Thank you. Name, sir?
Matt Calvert with Henderson Water Utility,
Your address?
230 North Albasia Street.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very good. Can you address the drainage question?
I can. Per the city technical standards, a developer is required to reduce the runoff by 30%. So once developed, it had to be 30% less than pristine conditions. So the developer's engineer will have to do those design calculations, show those to us, and we will review them and approve them if acceptable. But once developed, it should be less than developed.
Matt, can you explain what pristine conditions are?
Existing conditions, grass, field.
Okay. So what I'm understanding is it would be expected that this would reduce the runoff to adjoining property.
It would reduce the peak discharge from the property.
Any questions for this gentleman? Very good, thank you. Anyone else like to ask a question or two? Come on, please.
Excuse me, my name's Karen Tackett. I live at 2465 Moral Drive. Sorry.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good. Please proceed.
One thing, I wanted to readdress the R1, R2 issue. We do recommend it be R1 instead of R2. because once something's changed to R2, plans could change at another time, and multi-family homes could be put in there. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when they sign a development plan, and that's incorporated and attached to this rezoning if it's approved, it restricts any development, any building to only single things. And they've agreed to restrict it to also no off-street parking. They could not change that without coming back to the planning commission and making an application for a new rezoning that would require a new public hearing, new notice, and the planning commission would recommend for or against their new application to the city that would approve it or disapprove. So they can't just change their mind when
Okay,
they
that's good to know.
when they put a restriction.
Okay, but if they wanted to change, but it was not lots that were adjoining my property, I wouldn't be notified, would I?
No, ma'am.
So it could be changed, because I noticed that on Rucker Road when it was changed to the PUD. There's just one little piece of property there that probably only one person in the neighborhood received notification on it. And this traffic and the value of these homes affect our homes. And, on Wesley, where it's going to come out on Balmoral, there's a blind curve there that onto Balmoral that can be quite dangerous in my opinion, for people trying to get out there. But that's the concern for R2 instead of R1, is it can be changed later on to the back side, and nobody in Balmoral, Stepping Stone, Balmoral Acres would know anything about it.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to note that we do put out signs. Those signs would still go out. The notification, what you're referring to, I think is the letter that you received. So we are only statutorily required to send letters to adjoining and adjacent property owners. But we do also publish in the newspaper, and our agendas are online, on our Facebook page, anywhere like that. So the biggest thing for you all, I think, would be the signs that we do put out in the areas that would be changing, any kind of change in use at that point.
Did you put signs in our area?
We did.
I didn't see any.
We have pictures.
Heather, was it at the end of Wesley Drive?
That's the only place you go is the end of Wesley Drive.
Okay.
It's the most visible spot from the lot is when we do that.
There was something else here. But now I've lost it because I didn't make a note when they referenced it. So, and one thing I would like for you all to read our summary. We did come here with the intent of being good neighbors, and our hopes were that people would work with us. We're used to a quiet neighborhood, and this is why we live in Henderson. This is why we live where we do. And to have property much smaller lots than what ours are, and 8 feet in between them is just it's changing the whole aesthetics of our area. And we don't have a problem with something going in there that would be more in line with the subdivisions around it. But it's really going to negatively impact our living situation. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Someone speak to the blind curve at the intersection that you just mentioned? That we looked at? So you looked at that? Is there such a thing?
I mean, I don't see it being a blind curve. I mean, Pebble Creek Drive is pretty wide as a collector road. And yes, there could possibly be a study done to make it a four-way stop, but that would be determined on the traffic flow.
Mr. Booth, I missed this from my own view, which intersection are we referring to?
I'm sorry, right where the hand is. Oh, come back. Let's the drive right there. And the hand, yes.
Wesley Drive,
What's the drive and Pebble Creek Drive? Sorry.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the commission? I would. Please, sir. Name?
Timothy Hall,
Your address?
1989 Wesley Drive.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I did, sir.
Thank you. Question?
This may be somewhat redundant about what has already been said, but I wrote this and I would like to go ahead and put this out. I would like to thank everyone on this committee for allowing me and others to speak concerning the proposed new housing complex, which will be located not 25 feet from 2 bedrooms of my home at the end of Wesley Drive. And that is taking into account out of the 25-foot, 15-foot of underground utilities next to my house. The proposed traffic on Wesley Drive will dramatically impact our quality of life in several ways. Wesley Drive is a small street which has only 6 homes with road frontage. 4 of those homes have driveways off of Wesley. I question whether the streets in the new subdivision have the capacity to manage all of the vehicles for each of the 45 homes proposed. Possibly 80, 90, even more vehicles twice a day minimum would flow through there. And it is beyond reason to think that only Wesley Drive could handle the traffic flow for that numerous number of vehicles into and out of the new subdivision. This is critical to assure adequate access not only for residents but for emergency vehicles, large trucks, and buses. Also, the street will be so small that these vehicles will be unable to turn around on the tiny proposed pavement in the new subdivision. This amount of traffic would yield a very negative effect on both current homeowners on Wesley Drive and the new subdivision residents. To that point, please take into consideration a new access street originating from Pebble Creek Drive, which would parallel Community Baptist Church property, if possible, and provide for further home development or a city park in that area. The new street could be constructed wider to accommodate traffic more safely onto Pebble Creek Drive. If this development is to be a desirable housing complex, and I was under the assumption it was primarily a senior housing complex as it initially was proposed years ago, targeted for couples over 55 with values comparable to the existing homes along Wesley and Pebble Creek Drive, a road paralleling Community Baptist Church parking area would be the ideal answer to the access and safety issues. I am simply trying to look ahead into possible home expansion areas at Community Park, addition, or other potential developments. We are requesting a site drainage plan for the area provided by the state of Kentucky to the required storage capacity for the proposed building site and because of flooding and acreage presently located there. Stormwater runoff is a major concern and would only increase with more impermeable surfaces added, streets, driveways, and homes. One of the two proposed small retention ponds seems to be incorrectly planned to be located in the higher elevations of the site. So I'm not sure how drainage would reach that one site. Not only is this ineffective, but the two ponds are not adequate to manage the water issues expected on the 13 acres. And who would pay for the management of their upkeep? We have not heard that. We feel that a geological study needs to be completed on the area in question prior to any construction beginning. We are aware of several clearly visible depressions in the ground, which are very likely from old coal mines located directly under the area proposed for the development. In-depth state geological or local geological environmental studies should be made prior to any construction to address concerns relative to the viability of this proposed site. Excuse me. A low-cost new home, sodded, not brick, similar to the builder's other recent construction in Henderson, does not fit with the current housing styles and values around this site. There are plenty of good sites for this type of very small beginner family home development elsewhere in the area. I am not against the subdivision on this site, directly adjoining the existing houses, but feel it must be created comparably to the existing subdivision homes to create a long-lasting quality development as Henderson grows in a responsible manner for everyone involved. If not, our present homes, especially on Wesley Drive, will see a decrease in values due to the small beginner homes, tiny lots, and much increased traffic on the proposed single entry and exit street right in front of our homes. The ideal plan would see minimum 1,500 or 1,600 square foot retirement homes only for those over 55 years old, and this is relative to my understanding in the past it could be a senior citizens complex as originally planned. That option would be more fitting for the existing neighborhoods surrounding the proposed site. Initially, 50 years ago, this area was to have two entry and exit streets, one from Balmoral is already paved and on Wesley, not paved. The Balmoral Street entry has been eliminated as an option for some reason, and many more homes of smaller size are presently proposed for the area in question. So to require a larger street directly from Pebble Creek Drive paralleling Community Church should be the priority in my view. Speaking as a founder and deacon of Community Baptist Church, we fully support and will faithfully serve the new residents of the proposed development. But I believe that a road from the new subdivision directly next to the church parking area onto Pebble Creek Drive would best serve all people involved for now and for future development. I believe we all want what is the best long-term option for our community and this area. And I thank you for your attention and concerns for all the homeowners groups in this area and for your time and consideration relative to this matter. And we look forward to any further discussions at any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman?
No. I've got maybe one for Brian, and he may or may not know. Was there ever a development plan presented for this area?
For this particular parcel?
Well, or adjacent?
We found, Mr. Boone is actually the one who found it for us. There was a development plan, a master plan for the area in the early 2000s that we were able to find that was never submitted. The Plan Commission never saw it. It was just a matter of discussion that never made it to one of these meetings.
Is it available for viewing?
If someone would like to email us and request it, we would be happy to share it. We did not want to provide it at this meeting because we felt like that would be confusion. It was something that was submitted in 2005 versus now.
Well, it wasn't even submitted, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
Something that was reviewed.
Yeah, it was okay.
Discussed, is probably the best way.
But do you know whether there was proposed access roads for this area?
Well, my memory of that drawing is that this particular parcel only had one looped street with one access point.
Okay.
And that's memory, so please don't hold me to that.
So it didn't have 2 or 3 different accesses.
Not this particular parcel. There were other proposed roads through the adjacent properties.
Does anybody know if the church owns this property, whether it be a second exit?
Our property ends right at the fence line by our parking lot.
Okay.
So it would be on the other side. And I think, if I understand correctly, I think Dr. Watkins may own that.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you.
The church, I will say that the church was fully aware of what the plans were for a senior center. Dr. Watkins had planned to build 20 years ago, less than 20 years ago, and that's why I thought this may be a continuation of that. Thank you for your consideration.
Would anyone else like to address this? Your name, sir?
George Warren.
Address?
I gotta think for a minute. 5100 Timberline Drive.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very good.
And I'm gonna speak more on a history standpoint, because I've heard some things mentioned. And as you can tell from my gray hair, I've been around for a few years. Dr. Watkins was going to build a senior subdivision with 55 and older, no kids, that type of thing. And all of our development proposals, and when we sold property, we always put in a deed restriction in reference to sizes of homes. Whether any of the other sections out there all had. And we did not do that on this one because we thought with it being a senior citizens construction subdivision, it would be just nice to have in the community. So it was new to us, new to Dr. Watkins, so that's where we're into this. There is no minimum square footage. And in all the other subdivision tracts that we've sold, we did put that in there. There is some deed restrictions if anybody wants to pull up the deed restrictions to look at. But size of homes is not one of them. Some of the construction outside exterior is in there. As far as coal mining, I'm 99% sure, and I'm not an engineer, but there's been no coal mining under that property anywhere around there. So if there's any issues of soil, I know my great-grandfather tiled a lot of the property. So it could be some of the tile has caved in, and that's called, but tile's only 8 inches or something, it's not gonna be it. So, but if somebody wants to do a soil evaluation, hey, I'm just telling you though, in the 100 years that my family's had it, we've never had any coal mines. It seemed like there was one other thing I was going to bring. Oh, one other thing that I've had inquiry about, but I know no one's come up here, and so I don't know if those people may be a little more bashful, but is the divider, if there's any type of using existing wooden tree line or wooden fencing. I had several people call me about that, but that's not been brought up. So somebody may want to address that, because I'm surprised they haven't come up, but they didn't, I guess, a little shy. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Could the applicants come forward again, and we'll try to do some more of these questions? The question of buffer, trees, berms, any kind of a plan?
We hadn't planned of any.
It's going to be R2 next to R1, so it's not like it's commercial where you would have like.
It's not required by the zoning ordinance, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Susan Warren. I'm George's sister.
Your address?
Oh, sorry, 2570 US 60 East in Henderson.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, good,
Yes.
thank you. Please do.
Okay. I'm the great-granddaughter of George Henry Warren. As my brother made reference to, we've owned this farmland that surrounds much of this for at least 100 years. My father and his father came to this area and settled on the farm, coming in a wagon pulled by mules. So it goes back pretty far. Our farm that my great-grandfather had purchased extended from Wathen to Watson, as it became known, actually on both sides of the road. But as you know how farmers are, we are land rich and money poor. So at times, different pieces on both sides have been sold off. So I just wanted to let you know, and my brother George has already represented us to some extent, that there are, that we have had discussions not only on the subdivision side, but on our farm side. The drainage is a concern for me too, especially because where my property abuts to the development area, it's a wooded area, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't become a mosquito cesspond for the detriment to the neighborhood, as well as to the detriment of the wildlife that I hold very dear. Much of the property that we have still remaining is agricultural. We have crops on it. I have livestock. I have deer. So that's, at least in my lifetime, we hope that it will remain that way. But the things that I'm concerned about, as I've mentioned, is the drainage. Also, the separation of the development. And the drainage issue I have already discussed with the developer some. Another issue is separation of the developed area to the farmland. As over the years, many people here in Henderson will indicate that we have had travelers on the farm. In fact, Dr. Watson's son Scott has often told us that as a child, he would come over to the pond that we had and fishing. And that's not an uncommon thing for those the children that have grown up in Balmore Acres. But unfortunately, those harmless kind of trespassing issues have become more sinister. Now at dawn and dusk, it's not uncommon for me to occasionally hear gunfire, and it's not uncommon for the property that we have for damage and graffiti. My parents' home has been destroyed to a great extent by adults and children, both, who have come to the property. There has been a very large 35 by 25 picture window that was smashed by adults coming into the property. So aside from the guns and the damage, we need to make sure that there are good fences. And I have talked to the developer about my concern about that. My concern is over the years, who will maintain that? And I don't know if that comes under your jurisdiction or not. But the fences that we put up ourselves have been repeatedly cut. I have repeatedly tried to repair them to prevent my livestock from leaving. So my concern is drainage, separation that's secure, that would be adequate fencing, how that's going to be maintained. And then also, I am concerned, as these individuals are, about traffic, but mine goes a little bit further out. With the amount of traffic that already is going back and forth in this subdivision, with this added, there needs to be some type of study by someone at some point about the potential for a stoplight there at Pebble Creek and US 60. I don't want to see the people that live in the existing houses or in the new ones to be built to have to face the fear that many people already do fear. Don't really have any questions that I think need to be answered by the developers, because I've already had discussions with some of them, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more of a historical perspective and to let you know that concerns are on both sides. I think that hopefully in time that they can be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Could the applicants come back up, please? Thank you, gentlemen. The question of maintenance of the retention ponds, areas, mosquito control thing, is that something that's been taken, who's going to take care of these?
Well, if you, can you pull the, yes, please. Our plan is to have where, yeah, we're lot, is it 34?
Lot 34, between 34 and 35, there's a retention basin.
And our plan is to move that property line into that retention basin so that they can, that'll be maintained equal as yard. It will just slope off, but it will be a retention on that, share that. Does that make sense?
Well, if you move the property line, could they not build something on?
Well, it would still.
There'll be an easement for
There'll
the
be an
drainage.
easement for the drainage. That's been typical.
So the plan is for the adjoining property owner to maintain.
On those lots, yes.
Okay?
If they're developed. If they're not developed and you still maintain ownership, are you going to maintain the?
We have
Of
to,
course.
Henderson Water Utility will have to. Whoever owns it will be responsible for maintaining it. And that would be standard.
Okay.
Now, I know the question was asked, and I'm not trying to pry into Ms. Warren, but you said there wasn't any requirements to have any kind of buffer zone between R1, R2, and ag.
It's my.
On the south side,
Yeah.
on the south side between the two residential districts.
I'm saying that the zoning ordinance doesn't require it, only for commercial.
But if adjacent landowners are requesting you to put a safe fencing and you're agreeing to do that with those people, but you're saying you don't have to do it here, so it would become a liability. So what are y'all's plans? If you already agreed to do something with her, explain it to us.
There's, in the previous, when the property was sold from the Warrens to Dave Watkins, there were deed restrictions in there that George Warren spoke about. One of those restrictions is to maintain a fence between the old Warren farm and the development.
Or have sufficient growth.
Or a tree
Or
line.
the tree line, which if it was intact,
So
which it
if
is
the,
intact.
if the tree line is not in any case intact, then there would be a fence put up, and whoever owns that property would be, that would turn over to them for the maintenance.
That would only be between the proposed development and agricultural, not the neighbors. That's what I'm hearing now.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else like to address this proposal? Name, sir?
Dave Cully,
Address?
1301 Glenshire.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Most of my concerns have been covered in the proposal that my neighbors gave you already. I recently bought, last December, I bought 1301 Glenshire, went through that protocol. One of my concerns is ever since I moved in, the drainage, probably 15 feet coming into my backyard. When it rains, it's probably about 4 inches of water standing, so I'd be concerned about this retention situation and if that would be adequate for that. The other thing would be privacy. I think we just mentioned about maybe the tree line or whatever, but moved in from the county last December. And the main reason I bought that house was for the privacy, for the woods that are behind my property. And, you know, like to know if they had plans to leave some of that tree area or what they would do. I've got a fence across the back, but so the privacy thing would be a big concern for me. So that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you. If I, please correct me, applicants have said they have no plans for any kind of buffer between homes, correct? I don't want to misstate anything or put words in anybody's mouth, but I think that question's been answered. Anybody else would like to speak?
I'd like a clarification on the drainage issue from the engineer.
Very good.
Your comment was 30%, right? I'm sorry, your natural drainage had to be contained by 30%, is that correct?
It has to be reduced by 30%.
The natural?
Yes.
With the natural drain?
Yes.
So if we build houses, we build streets, we put in sidewalks, we got roof areas, based on those lot sizes, my calculations show about 48% of the ground for the area is impervious.
I would probably agree with you.
So, but you're telling me we only have to reduce 30% of the existing condition, the way the ground looks like now?
Once it's developed, that peak runoff from developed property has to be 30% less than what it was previously.
Previous in the farmland
As
state?
in farmland. They have to reduce it to less than what it's currently.
But aren't they
discharged.
actually going to be increasing the amount of runoff water? Because before it would actually soak into the ground, now it's just gonna run off.
Yes, sir, and it will run into detention basins where it will be held and slowly released. And that's something that the developer's engineer will have to work through and provide those calculations.
Okay, but help me understand this, because I've got a 2-inch ring. It's gonna come down on farm ground. I'm a farmer too. It's gonna soak up, especially when you've got crop cover, soybeans,
Yes.
corn, whatever. I don't have that when I have streets and houses. All I have is a little bit of a yard, 2-inch rain. I'm calculating 650 to 700,000 gallons of water. It's going to be repelled by 2 retaining ponds. At that point, if it's a hard rain, it's going to be 3 to 4 feet of water in that surface area that you got.
They will have to detain a 100-year storm event. That's what they'll have to
That could be
detain
even
up to.
worse then. I mean, we're talking worse to 6 or 8 inch rain, which we
If
have
you-
out there.
And we do, and roads get flooded.
So where's that water going to go?
It will have to go through an overflow route,
Where?
and that will need to be designed by their engineer.
But see, that's a big concern for the people here that have a retention pond in their backyard, which so far has not retained what needs to, the water naturally comes off that. Because we understand the farm was there before the houses were there. Just,
I can't answer specifics without seeing the drainage calculations, but they will be required to detain.
I did a rough drainage calculations, it's just basically math, it doesn't take a lot to figure that out. But, a lot more water here than what we had.
There will be more volume of water that will go to those basins. And they will
Not to the
be-
basins, I'm saying it's gonna go over the basins, unless those basins are gonna be 8, 10 feet deep. And now I'm hearing that potentially the basin's gonna be shared by the 2 property owners on either side. There's absolutely no benefit for those 2 people, especially along Balmoral, or 3, that are gonna have share part of the retention basin. Can you pull it back up where you show the retention basin? Okay, our main concern.
Okay, excuse
This
me.
is, I'm sorry.
Question's been
Yeah.
asked. The gentleman's trying to answer it. Need you at the podium so we can get you, keep you on the record.
I was trying to point out where it's at. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I could do it here. There's a few things that you guys actually do that I'm not familiar with, so excuse my ignorance. So we're talking about that particular area right there. How do we line it up? Is that 4.47 acre retention going to be shared, the cost to maintain it going to be shared by lot number 10 and lot number 9?
I assume, yes, that will be the case. That'll be part of their lots, and they'll have to maintain it.
Do they know that?
Well, when they purchase it, they'll know.
This is no way.
I mean, that's typical in any subdivision, any detention basin.
I might understand if there was a homeowners association, but to expect two people to maintain a half an acre of water that's 4 to 5 feet deep at any given time, so that it does not damage the adjacent property owners on Balmoral Drive.
That seems to be, that's the answer to the question.
It's not an answer to the question, it's a statement to the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is, that's been given, whether we believe it or not, is that the runoff has to be reduced by 30% over the natural state, correct?
Correct, the peak runoff. You're gonna have increased volume that's gonna be held in the detention basin. And then it's slowly released at a lower rate than it's currently being released.
Where does that get released to?
That will be part of their design.
Mr. Calvert, I think if I can hear, I think what I hear what you're saying is any discussion right now is speculation until we actually see calculations.
Yes, sir.
And maybe to help, Wendell,
I'm
is
sorry.
that if the developer comes back with a plan and the city doesn't believe it, they have to go back and recalculate all this. This happened before, previously. It has to be approved before we approve it.
I understand that.
It's just not something that's gonna be dumped on the neighbors. It has to be an approved plan that's accepted by the city and approved as a recommendation from us.
Okay, so when the existing Balmoral plan at 2465 and the adjacent property was put in, there was a concrete drainage structure put in by the developer. It connects to a 30-inch drain line pipe that goes to the center of Balmoral Drive. It is failing. It has failed. The street has failed. Designs are good. We're concerned about implementation and who's going to maintain it. When the developer sells this, walks away, people at 2465 and adjoining lot have a problem. That's all I'm saying. It's the problem's there now. You can't deny it doesn't happen if you just walk out there and see it. With respect to traffic, and I understand you guys go to the Evansville Metropolitan to get traffic information, but they look at it strictly from a map point of view. They don't actually go out there and physically look at things. So,
Pictures are,
I'm sorry?
pictures of the floods.
So, yeah, you have pictures of floods, and you see that
in your
from
handout.
I guess the only other request I have at this point in time, the developer has talked to the adjacent landowner, the Warrens, and maybe they were required to because of the covenants of their property they're getting ready to buy. It would be nice if the developer and the current owner of the property would talk to the adjacent landowners, just to be a good neighbor. I grew up on a farm, that's what we did. If we were going to do something, we went and talked to our neighbor. Are you okay with this? What can we do to make it better for you? No one here that I've talked to is against it. We don't like invasion of privacy, but we understand that's property that's going to be developed. We do understand that. But no one has discussed it with us. What can we do to make it better for everybody? And that's where the discussion should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Nora Hobson, 1990 Wesley Drive.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I currently work from home 3 days a week, so I know the amount of traffic that is going through there. I do want them to understand the traffic flow of it, because when you are coming out of Wesley Drive to turn left out of there, you have to watch, because they're coming around Pebble Creek onto Balmore, and it's an uphill incline, and they're going quickly. and you have to watch for them. So the corner lot that is catty corner from me is a young man that plays basketball out there. And I want them to consider what it will be like to have the road occupied with so many vehicles when children are going to be playing, and buses and my Amazon deliveries and all that. I just really want them to check the traffic, because I live there and I see it and I know it. And it's not as conducive and convenient and safe for families there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question for Doug. I just need to answer. And I know where Westwood Drive is, and I have been on it, but I don't know how wide Westwood Drive is.
30
exactly.
feet.
Well, it's 30 feet, it's 50 feet right away with 30 feet back to curb, back to curb.
All right. Do they allow on-street parking on Westwood?
I have no idea.
Yes. Yeah, that's my concern, is if they allow it there, then you take two vehicles parked, maybe not across from each other, but category, and then you got oncoming vehicles coming, that narrows it down to how wide on the average? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I
that
know
portion
you
of
can't do
Wesley
anything
Drive
about
was
it, I
done
just-
way before I came around.
I understand, I
So,
understand.
I mean,
But do you see a concern there?
on Wesley, the current Wesley Drive,
Yes.
I mean, based on the subregs and the things we have to deal with the subregs, it meets the requirement.
I understand that too. But-
That's all I have to work with.
Okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Come out there and look at it.
Anyone else like to? Yes, ma'am, please.
I promise to still tell the truth.
Good. I knew you would.
What I'm trying to think to understand is all the planning commission can do for us tonight is to either approve the zoning or not. Is that correct?
We would make a recommendation one way or the other, correct?
Correct. The recommendation would go to the Board of Commissioners.
City Commission.
And I would like to plead and ask you all to, I'm still being a good neighbor, but a dissatisfied one. I would like to see the rezoning denied at this time. And I think we would be happy to have some neighbors work with the developers and Dr. Watkins and Mrs. Watkins and try to come up with something that would satisfy everybody. And let's face it, that's what we're all here for. So that is my request to you.
Thank you. If the commission recommends denial of this rezoning, the applicants have asked the city commission to overrule our
Correct.
recommendation.
There,
Both sides could ask to overrule us.
And this is a very condensed version of this. I'm probably going to make TJ cringe with my explanation. But the Plan Commission has approved what's called an alternative rezoning practice. So essentially, if the decision is made tonight, one way or another, there's a 21-day window that the Board of Commissioners can act on that if they're requested to by any aggrieved party, either way. Typically, during rezonings, the 21 window expires and there's not that request, but it is still possible. And I'm glossing over a lot of KRS language, so please forgive me for that. But if the Plan Commission makes a decision that either side does not like, there's still an appeal process, for lack of a better word to describe it, to the Board of Commissioners.
And does the Board of Commissioners mean?
The city.
City Commission.
The city.
City Commission, sorry, City Commission.
City Commissioners. Is that next week?
They meet the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, I believe.
Because I'm going to be at Disney World with my grandson next week. I can't be there.
Well, I think
know
we
you
filed
can.
the appeal, right?
Yes.
Then the city commission would schedule when they have their public hearing. Correct, Counselor? Is that what you-
Correct, that's right.
Can you ask Dr. Watkins and Mrs. Watkins and the developers, if they would consider sitting down with us. You know, because it's one of those things, you get hit with this, you know, with the mail, it's a week and a half before this meeting, and we're trying to absorb it all and try to figure out the unknowns, which, you know, a lot is just guesswork on our part. We've had some questions answered, but I don't know if that is appropriate to ask you.
She's asked you to ask the developer.
Because I know I can't do it directly.
Okay,
Right?
I misunderstood. I can ask them.
And I still stand not to approve the zoning tonight.
Ma'am, I just want to make sure I understand the request. You're requesting that the applicant withdraw the request for an R1 zoning, or are you asking them to table it so that way we understand the request?
Well, I mean, right now, I mean, I would like to see it as R1, but some of the answers I've heard, I'm not getting the feel that the good neighbor thing is coming back at me. And so I would like to see it, if you can't deny it, then to table it until we can.
Just want to make sure we understood the request.
What are you asking the chairman to ask the developer?
Right now, I would like him to ask the developer if they would sit down, if they would even reconsider changing what their proposal is.
From R2 to R1, correct?
From R2 to R1, but also the actual plan. Or to table it. We can talk about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Unless you have more. The developers, please. Gentlemen, thank you. Okay. Would you reconsider portions of this proposal that have been discussed tonight? Would you consider meeting with the neighbors to address their concerns? Perhaps adjusting the request from R2 to R1? Or even, would you consider tabling this request so this meeting can take place?
At this time, I don't think so.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something?
Oh, by all means, yes.
We've designed this with the planners, with the engineer, city engineer, and it met their requirements for what we have. The density on it, the reason we're looking for that is that you can't hardly do anything in Henderson in BNR1, it seems like. It costs too much to put that street in BNR1. So that's why the density is, we're looking for that density. It's still going to be single family. It's not going to be, I think they mischaracterized our other subdivision. This is going to be, this is not the same thing. This will be, I'm going to say, they're going to be dressed up different. They're going to be bigger. The potential for them to be considerably bigger than what we have going currently. So I think that what we've done meets everybody's, we've met our burden on that part of that, is what I think.
Okay, just to make sure.
We're not opposed to discussing with them, but at this point in time, we want to continue with the rezoning.
Okay, but you would consider meeting with them and answering their questions and addressing their concerns?
Of course, we want to be good neighbors too.
Yeah.
They're going to have, we're going to be right there next to them working, and we want to be good neighbors to them.
Okay. But you would not consider tabling this?
No,
Or recommending withdrawing it or suggesting it be tabled or?
Not at this time.
Making a change in it this evening? Okay. I think I'm clear on that. Is everyone else? Thank you. Anyone else like to address this matter? Yes, ma'am.
Well, then, my request becomes, I ask the commission to deny the rezoning and leave it as agriculture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address this? Just by all means.
I do have a question, and I guess maybe the city engineer could answer this. You talked about the metropolitan study. All right, the road coming, the proposed road on the plat, that's a 40-foot road?
No, the road is 32.
32? So then it would be going into Wesley Drive, which is 30.
Yeah.
All right, so it would narrow.
It would narrow it.
It would narrow and go into Wesley Drive. Was that taken in consideration with the metropolitan study you're talking
I gave them
about?
everything they needed to know about current trial, as well as the development.
Okay. And does that take in consideration if it's 30-foot, emergency vehicles going through, fire trucks, buses?
Under our current subregs, those cul-de-sacs, those roads are sufficient for emergency services.
May I make a statement?
By all means.
Thank you. My name is Anita Mendroff-Ivy, and I live at 1986 Wesley Drive, which is the last house on the right. Across the street from me live Tim Hall and Heather McCormick, and Mark and Jenny Utley, and next door, Mark and Nora Hobson. I think it's important that you all know us by name rather than street addresses. My husband Larry Ivy and I have lived at our home for 34 years. We do not have the ability to turn around in our driveway. It is steep and it's back out only. My husband uses handbrake controls in his vehicle. This would be difficult for use to back out with traffic coming around a curve and will become increasingly difficult as we and our neighbors get older. I think when they're talking about the blind curve, if you look where it says Street A, I guess, at the end of that, it curves around and it goes into Wesley Drive, and our houses are right there. So there's really not enough reaction time when a car is coming around that curve to be able to pull back out of our driveway. The amount of traffic past our homes would go from none a day to a minimum of 336 cars per day. And the reason I say this, if there are just 2 cars per household and they make just 2 trips into town, this would be 336. Now, I know the gentleman talked about how there'd have to be 700 vehicles for there to be a study. All these people would have to do is to have 1 child. And that child would be making trips back and forth, and we could certainly go up to 700 cars a day going past my home. We want the continued quiet enjoyment of our home. The proposed division would also be very difficult for emergency vehicles and school buses to get from our narrow 30-foot road and the proposed roads that only go out to 32. We too would ask that a different point of ingress and egress be used. Our subdivision is, as George Warren said, our subdivision has restrictions, and the homes are to be entirely brick. We hear that these are going to be composite and different materials, that they be 20 foot apart. Here they're going to be 16 feet apart. That they be comprised of at least 16 square feet or 1,700 square feet, depending on the size of the attached garage. And here we're looking at 14 feet. Our house is 2,400 square feet, including our garage. The houses on our street are on approximately a half an acre. The new houses are on less than a third of an acre. If you look at this, they're at 0.30, so they're less than a third of an acre.
0.17.
0.17. So these homes are not comparable to ours. The replacement value of our home, and I'm talking about the replacement value, at $160 per square foot, plus the cost of a lot, and we can use that at some of the lots that are in our area, at $32,200, the replacement cost would be $420,000. These homes are going to start at $200,000. That's certainly going to affect the value of our homes. Water drainage is a concern. The elevation of the property next to Tim and our house is much higher, and this would cause a real drainage problem. I don't know how many of you all have been to Wesley Drive, but our houses are here, and this cornfield that they're going to build is up here. There, of course, is going to be drainage coming down, and that concerns us for our homes, for our sidewalks, and for our streets. We ask also that the commission consider denying their request. We would like for them to look at another point for ingress and egress. There's property there between Community Baptist Church and Aqua City Swim Club that could be used, and this would be a lot more preferable than coming in to a narrow subdivision street. To very much.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? Anyone else like to speak this evening?
My name is David Fricky. I live at 1309 Glen Shield.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Similar concerns as everybody else, but on Glen Shield Way, or Glen Shield Drive, they have a lot of mature trees along there, and I guess they answered that there'll be no buffer zone or anything. That means all those trees could be removed. That's my question.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, sir. Would the developers like to field this one about removal of trees?
We haven't been back to that portion of the property, so we're kind of unaware of which trees he's talking about. We're not in the business of taking down trees that we don't have to take down. We want to leave mature trees, if at all possible. So we would keep as many of those as we could, as long as we don't have any infrastructure that's going to that point, pipes or what have you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
I want to address one thing about the
Okay, please come forward. I want to apologize to everybody here, because I let the 3-minute time limit. We've blown that up many times. Okay, so we want to hear from everybody, we want to hear everything you have to say.
With respect to the trees, it's pretty evident. You can even see it on the plot plan here that you've shown here, where the trees actually do and how far they actually come into the property. I don't think anybody's expecting all the trees to stay. We understand that he needs to clear them out for the property owner to build a house. Once that property is transferred to the owner, each individual lot, say lot number 55, if he wants to, or whatever the lots numbers are, he can do anything he wants to with those trees. Those trees are no longer protected. He can make an assurance that he's not going to take trees out, but once he sells that property, the person can go and cut down any tree he wants to up to the property line. I understand.
Of course, so can I, so can you.
Yes.
So can the
Make a
current
statement.
landowner.
I'm sorry?
So the current landowner can clear those trees.
Exactly. Right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Does the commission have anything they'd like to add or questions? Okay, I believe we have a proposed motion here in findings of fact in regard to this case.
That is correct, sir.
Staff, would you present that card?
Yes, sir. Proposed motion and findings of fact 4, rezoning 1154 with a graphic development plan submitted by HCM LLC and David and Peggy Watkins to the property located in the city of Henderson on Wesley Drive, being parcel ID number 65-22.2, containing approximately 13.106 acres. The applicants request a zoning change map amendment from agricultural to medium density residential R2 with a graphic development plan to develop a single-family residential subdivision. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the Henderson Board of Commissioners, the city, approve rezoning application 1154 with the development plan changing the zoning classification from agricultural to medium density residential with a graphic development plan to develop a single-family residential subdivision. It is further recommended that such approval be subject to 1, the approval of a master plan, 2, the approved preliminary plat and related construction drawings, and 3, approval of a final plat. I leave the motion open for others of the Planning Commission to add findings of fact in support of this motion because the existing zoning classification of city agricultural is inappropriate and the requested map amendment zone change set out above is appropriate because the development will help meet the need for housing in Henderson. There are other development, single-family uses in the area. The existing and proposed infrastructure will support the development. The proposed development will add to the city of Henderson's tax base. The proposed development will be screened by existing tree lines. Wesley Drive terminates at the property line of the subject parcel, making the subject parcel more easily developed. Detailed plats and construction drawings for this project will come back to the Planning Commission for review by staff and the relevant technical advisors.
Mr. Chairman,
Council.
may I address? If someone chooses to adopt this proposed motion and findings, I would request that you amend it to include the narrative development plan that the applicants have agreed to.
Mr. Chairman, can we also add no on-street parking?
Well, that's one of the 2 things that will be in the narrative development.
And single family.
Single family and no on-street parking.
Those 2 conditions. Correct. Are there others?
Restrictions.
Okay. Commission have any questions? Staff? Would they like to hear from the applicants again? Anyone else? Would anyone else like to address the commission? Further questions? Let's take a minute and think about it. I want to make sure we hear from everybody. We have made accommodations for this to be entered into the record, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion in regard to rezoning 1154 with a graphic development plan.
Mr. Chairman, I know this may not be exactly what everybody wants, but I want to make a motion to table rezoning 1154. Give us the opportunity to maybe review a little more of the concerns of the citizens that own this property.
Counselor?
Would you like your motion to table it until some specific time?
Well,
Would you consider?
yeah, until our next meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion being to table this rezoning 1154 with graphic development plan until the next regular meeting of the Henderson City County Planning Commission. Any discussion by the commission? The motion is to table till the next regular meeting, correct?
Yes.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard,
No.
Bobby Jarrett,
Yes.
Mac Arnold,
No.
XR Royster,
No.
Dickie Johnson,
Yes.
Gary Gibson,
No.
Greg Hodge,
Yes.
Stacy Denton,
No.
Frank Boyette,
No.
Heather Tace.
Yes.
At 6-4.
That's correct.
Motion is defeated. Does anyone else have another motion they'd like to make in regard to this project? What is the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, am I understanding right rules of order, if there's not a motion made, then it denied, correct? Counselor?
I should know the answer to that, but I frankly don't. I believe it goes to the commission without a recommendation, but I'm not certain of that. I've been doing this almost 20 years and I've never had this happen.
Your understanding, it would go to the
That's my.
city commissioners without a recommendation?
But whatever happens, we'll have to, the law will speak for itself. What I
Yes.
say tonight will not be controlled.
I understand.
Because I haven't thought of that
Long time.
in 20, 30 years.
Mr. Todd, is it anything with the effect of break that you look up, or is it more research type thing needed?
Can we make a motion to deny it?
Absolutely.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, was that a question or a motion?
Motion?
I was gonna make the motion if you didn't, so.
Okay, we have a motion before the commission. The motion is to deny this rezoning, to recommend to the city commission that they deny this rezoning. We're not done with this matter, okay? But the motion is to deny, I recommend denial. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richard,
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett,
Yes.
Mac Arnold,
No.
XR Royster,
Yes.
Dickie Johnson,
Yes.
Gary Gibson,
No.
Gray Hodge,
No.
Stacy Denton,
No.
Frank Boyette,
No.
Heather Tace.
Yes.
Chairman votes no. Oh, excuse me. Motion was to deny.
Yes.
The chairman votes yes. Forgive me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, so we're voting to deny the rezoning?
Yes, by a vote of
6 to 5.
You voted, you voted yes.
I voted yes in favor of no.
Of
Deny.
I'm only trying to.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
make
sorry.
sure that it's
I
clarified.
misspoke at a very bad time. I voted in favor of the motion to deny.
I'm not sure it was said for the record, but there was a tie vote.
Yes.
The chairman may vote to break the tie. The chairman did vote and voted in favor of the motion. So the application, the recommendation to the city commission is denied. Now, we need to do findings of, you have a motion, you need to do findings of fact. Do you want to do them yourself, or do you want to table it for staff to prepare findings consistent with the record?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that staff take that responsibility. I feel like it would be irresponsible to expect you guys to do all that on a whim after an hour and a half of discussion. So staff would like to volunteer to do that if agreeable.
But it takes a motion.
I would make that motion to staff prepare facts.
And typically, when you refer a matter to staff to prepare motion and findings consistent with the record, you also vote that you will not reopen the public hearing and reconsider the motion. Are you also?
Yes, so I would like to
I'm not
amend my,
putting
no,
words
I would
in
like
your
to,
mouth.
I want to make sure we're doing this correctly. So I'd like to amend my motion that this will not be reopened and no further vote will be taken on this matter.
And you're asking staff.
And I'm asking staff to please prepare, based on the record, findings of fact for denial of this result.
So we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Heather Tace?
Yes.
Frank Boyette?
Yes.
Stacy Denton?
Yes.
Ray Hodge?
Yes.
Gary Gibson?
Yes.
Dickie Johnson?
Yes.
Exar Royster?
Yes.
Mac Arnold?
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett?
Yes.
Kevin Richard?
Yes.
Very good. Motion passes, staff will prepare findings of fact and bring those back to us. Next item. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, can we give the audience a minute to?
Yes, by all means.
If they choose.
One of the choose to lead you may, will follow for a second, otherwise we've got several other items to address.
She has been very productive and changed sort of how we track the spending so that we have a better example of how money's coming in and money's going out. I think it's a very good idea. It will help us come budget time. We will be able to see our expenses month to month as opposed to an annual just bottom line scenario. I think it's something that's very much needed, and I will turn it over to Jessica.
So our 38% of the budget as of September, the end of September, I've given you two different handouts. One shows kind of the budget jump trend, so what we've gone up each month since the beginning of the fiscal year. Obviously, July was significantly higher than August and September because of the subscription that we had to pay for in July. So this will kind of break it down to where the heavy cost comes from, and to show that not everyone feels like that. Some months are heavier because of subscription-based items. So this will make that easier to track and easier to use when it comes time to budget again.
Thank you. Do you have any questions concerning the finance report? I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Finance report is approved. Thank you very much. Next item is the bond report. Ms. Marsh, got that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we do have one item to discuss in the bond report. That is the North Green Street Liquors. I believe it's been a little bit over a year now since we did that. However, they did reach out. And the stormwater and erosion control bond that we currently hold for that, that part of the project has been completed, and Henderson Water Utility has made the recommendation to release that part of the bond. So I just need your approval to move forward with that.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion in regard to the bond report as presented.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to accept the bond report as submitted.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Bond report is approved as submitted. Next item on the agenda is Jimmy John's site plan. Mr. Bishop?
Yes, sir. This is submitted by KEB Real Estate Holdings, Ken Butler at JP and MC LLC, for the property located in the city of Henderson at 336 Reading Road. The applicants are requesting site plan approval. This site will look familiar. The Planning Commission heard a rezoning for this development with number rezoning 1145. The applicant is requesting the construction and related improvements of a 3,310 square foot building that will primarily house a Jimmy John's fast food restaurant. The applicant has proposed one change that was different on the development plan, which is the 6-foot fence that was proposed to be wooden is now an 8-foot fence that is proposed to be vinyl. The Planning Commission requested that staff notify the adjoining property owners when this site plan was submitted. We have done that. We have received all necessary approvals from the technical advisors, and we recommend approval subject to bonding in the amount of $24,250 for the proposed entrance on the Reading Road, with additional curbs and sidewalks to be covered by that. And I have also placed that number in front of you, so if you need to refer back to that number, you'll have it as well. And I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for staff? Is the applicant with us? Okay, we have questions for the applicant? Okay, sir, your name?
My name is Glenn Merritt. I'm with Cash Wagner and Associates. I'm the engineer on the project.
Your address?
414 Citadel Circle, Evansville, Indiana.
Council says the truth, the whole truth.
I do.
Very good. What would you like to share?
I really don't have anything else to share. Brian pretty much said everything that needs to be said. I mean, it's located on the west side of 41, just south of, on the south side of Reading Road. The building is 3,300 square foot. It will have 2 tenants. The Jimmy John's will take up 1,600 foot, and then the other half is just going to be leased space for a future tenant. There's no planned tenant for the other part of it yet. Except we've went through a number of concerns
from the different city departments, and I think we've addressed all their concerns, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions?
Brian, just to confirm, you said all required city entities have signed off on this?
Yes, sir.
My understanding, there was a couple adjoining landowners had some issues. Did y'all address them?
Part of the reason for adding that 8-foot fence on the west property line was they were concerned about lighting and noise and things like that, and that's why we added that 8-foot fence on the west side.
Okay, I thought that was probably the reason, but I wanted to make sure.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience have any kind of questions or concerns about this? Yes, sir?
My name's Terry Husk. I live at 209 Highland Drive. Also on the property next to the proposed Jimmy John's.
Okay, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do.
Yes, sir. How can we help you?
There is also an old chain link fence, short fence. I'm assuming they're going to have that removed when they put the new proposed vinyl fence in. Also ask is, will there be any kind of evergreens or foliage or anything along that line as well to assist with the noise being cut down some?
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see if we can get an answer for you. Sir, can you come back up? Is there an old fence to be removed?
Correct.
It will be.
It's shown on the plans to be removed.
Okay. What about any kind of vegetative screening?
No, there is no plan for any kind of trees. That's why the fence was extended to 8 foot and a vinyl fence.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Sir?
The vinyl fence, I have a question about maintenance on the vinyl fence. On the back of my property, there's about a 4.5, 5 foot brick block wall between the back of our yard and the hotel. It's not to code, it's below 6 foot. It's also been damaged and broken down. So if they damage a block brick fence, what are they going to do with the vinyl? So that's not very substantial in the environment that we're going to have cars coming around the corners, going to the drive-through and all that stuff. My concern would be that the vinyl would be a short-lived and a high-maintenance situation. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir? Question has to do with maintaining this fence.
I mean, the maintenance of the vinyl fence will be on the owner, KDB.
Okay.
As far as, I mean, the fence, the existing block wall fence that is along the south property line adjoining the hotel, or the sugar mill, I mean, it's all going to be removed where it's adjacent to the Jimmy John's property, but the fence he's talking about is obviously south of his property line. So the fence is going to be, the existing fence is going to be cut off, and then the vinyl fence will be extended to the new end of that existing fence, but it will remain on the backside of his property. We have no control over that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Commission have anything else that we'd like to know? I'll entertain a motion in regard to the Jimmy John's site plan.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we approve the Jimmy John site plan submitted by KEB Wholesale Holdings, Ken Butler, and JP and MC LLC for the property located in the city of Henderson at 336 Reddit Road.
Second. You gotta have the bonding, right?
Subject to the entrance curbs and sidewalk bonding at $24,200.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Kevin Richards.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
XR Royster.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Greg Hodge.
Yes.
Stacy Denton.
Yes.
Frank Boyette.
Yes.
Heather Tays.
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you very much. The next item is the build-ready pad preparation. Ms. Marks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Build Ready Pad Preparations annually walk-in site is submitted by the West Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority. The property located in Henderson County at 1995 Northern Star Way, being parcel ID number 72-20.1. The applicants are requesting site plan approval. So if you will look in your packets, we are only referring to the red here. Here we go. So this is the site plan that has been submitted. The applicants are here to speak to this in case I misheard anything. This would be constructing a build-ready pad for future development. I believe Henderson Economic Development, Missy's here if I butcher anything, did receive a grant to prep this site for future development in an industrial manner. So as you can see here, this is kind of the plan right now. So an important thing to note, though, is that once a company or industry decided that they would locate at this site, a whole new site plan would come that actually has more of what we're used to with a site plan, the building plans, the drainage, all that stuff would be seen on that. So this is just approving the site that they have selected to put this build-ready pad on. And if you guys have any other questions, myself or Ms. Vanderpool or Mr. Hogbeck can answer those for you.
Any questions from the commission?
I did have one question here, we can answer it.
Yes.
We'll wait till Mr. Hopkins gets here.
Your name, sir?
Chris Hopgood,
Address?
318 Second Street.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So my assumption is this ready-built pad is being built to make this lot more marketable for new business. I guess my question, the math or assumptions used to decide this specific size of ready-built pad, is it benchmarked off other industry or
Yes.
target industry? I guess.
Right. Missy at Economic Development can tell you what people are looking for, and this is designed to make sure that it attracts someone that would fit within that park. It's just grading and making it flat. It's not, there's no concrete involved, it's just a dirt pad. But it pushes the business, closer to being able to then come in and start building.
Thank you,
Would you
sir.
like to?
Yeah, if you want to just elaborate on that.
Yeah.
I figured some thought went into this particular size, that's why I was just asking.
Your name, please?
Missy Vanderpool,
Address?
207 North Elm Street, Henderson.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good.
So we go have, this site is marketed currently for industrial development through the Cabinet for Economic Development and different site selectors. We've hosted many site visits. In the last 12 months, we've submitted this site 35 times for potential development. What we hear at most site visits, we always try to get, a SWOT analysis after a meeting or a site visit, and one of it was a grading. It needed grading. And so we started working on a grading plan. And most of our sites, or most of the requests that we receive are from anywhere from 500,000 square feet to 1,000,000 square feet. This pad would grade that and make it more level. So even though the building that may come in the future may not be this size, it's just when they walk out there and see it, they're ready to go. It takes about 6 months off and about $1.5 million off of their capital investment.
I was just more curious than anything.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else in the audience have questions or information they'd like to share? Okay, I'll entertain a motion in regard to the build-ready pad preparation proposal.
Chairman, make motion to approve the build-ready pad preparation Sandy Lee Watkins site submitted by West Kentucky Regional Industrial Development Authority for the property located in Henderson County at 1995 Northern Starway, PID number 72-20.1.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Heather Taves.
Yes.
Greg Boyette.
Yes.
Stacy Denton.
Yes.
Greg Hodge.
Yes.
Gary Gibson.
Yes.
Dickie Johnson. XR Royster.
Yes.
Mac Arnold.
Yes.
Bobby Jarrett. Kevin Richards.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the Riverview Cole Henderson County Portal. I think Commissioner Page.
Yes. I need to recuse myself, please.
Commissioner's going to recuse herself and step into the hallway. Mr. Bishop, can you help us with this one?
Yes, sir. So this is submitted by Riverview Co. LLC for the property located in the county of Henderson at 6755 Sulphur Springs Road, being parcel ID number 35-11.1, containing approximately 55 acres. The applicants are requesting site plan approval. This site plan also may look familiar. The rezoning for this property came to the Plan Commission under rezoning 1140. You may also remember that the Plan Commission agreed to notify the property adjoiners. We have done that. The applicant is proposing a 30,703 square foot bathhouse and related improvements. The staff has received all necessary approvals from the appropriate technical advisors, and we recommend approval subject to bonding in the amount of $20,000 for the proposed entrance, and we request that the site plan be subject to approval of a conditional use permit, which would be heard by the Henderson County Board of Zoning Adjustment. Excuse me. And I'll do my best to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the commission having to do with this site plan? Is the applicant with us? Would anybody like to address this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm John Thomason, 7933 Waterfront Court, Newburgh, Indiana, attorney for Riverview Coal. And I have with me David Lamb of Associated Engineers who will be presenting for Riverview Coal tonight.
Okay. Do you both promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I need this gentleman down here. Okay, name?
David Lamb, 2106 J.D. Buchanan Road, Hanson, Kentucky.
Okay, and you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did.
Very good.
This is the site plan for the Riverview Coal portal. And it has been designed to accommodate the 30,703 square foot bathhouse. With this submittal, the building plans have not been submitted. They will be submitted separately, the building proper plans. But this has all the site improvements, site development, stormwater management, and all those attributes associated with the development of the site. And I would like to add that this site has also been approved and is under permit with the Kentucky Division of Mine Permits. It is to support a portal facility that will allow people to access the underground coal zone. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you both. Anyone else has a question about this or like to share something? This man? Name, please.
Melissa Clements. I live at 16260 Highway 136 East, Roberts, Kentucky. I am representing my family that owns the adjacent farm, the Dixon Farm, across from this property on two different sides. And we do have some questions.
Excuse me. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few questions. I'm sorry my parents couldn't be here tonight, but these are questions that we would like addressed tonight before moving forward with any type of approval to the site. The first set of questions that I have is flooding and drainage. Since this site is in a floodplain, how do you plan to control the drainage from rainwater, especially during our heavy rainfalls? Pictures were taken, given to us, county magistrate and our county engineer about what the flooding looks like on Sulphur Springs as it is right now. So we do have some concerns moving forward. How will that plan work? The raising of Sulphur Springs Road has been thrown out there. We do not believe this is an option due to forced flooding on the surrounding landowners. which that farm is producing income for our family. There's already a great concern due to construction of retention pond with a spillway emptying within 25 yards onto Sulphur Springs Road. Highway safety. What improvements for better safety travel conditions are planned on Sulphur Springs Road and Wheeler Road?